TVs. Everyone loves a good TV. And even more than that, they love a good deal on a good TV. And when new models or newer versions come out all the time, it begs the question, should I get the older model or the newer model? Welcome to the first in a brand new series called Cheap But Worth It. Now to be clear, cheap can be relative, and in this case, we use the word cheap, we aren't talking about dollar store cheap. OLEDs have been the upper end of the price bracket, and not until now have I really thought of them as affordable, or dare I even say cheap. Now I know $1,100 is no insignificant amount of money, but back in the day a 48-inch OLED used to be north of $5,000 if you wanted to get something in 4K, and especially as nice as the ones we're focusing on today. So when the Black Friday deals came around and we saw these TVs pop up, we knew this felt like a great worthy pilot to our brand new show. So cheap but worth it? Let's talk about the LG C1 48-inch 4K OLED TV. Lexar has been around the storage game for 25 years now when it comes to things like memory cards, readers, and solid-state drives. But now, Lexar is getting into RAM with their first lineup called Hades. Their 32GB kit comes with two 16GB DIMMs running at 3600 MHz, which is a pretty competitive space in the DDR4 market. So if you're looking for a solid set of RAM for your next build, go ahead and check out the new Lexar Hades RGB RAM, link in the description below. It feels like every year we get new versions of the same tech in TVs with only a slight update to the TV and maybe some creature comforts. It's not realistic to expect that every year we're going to get some sort of new groundbreaking form of display technology. But what if I told you you could get an LG OLED TV for around $1,100 during Black Friday? Heck, there's even one that may be less than $1,000 if we mention the LG A1 48-inch OLED TV. Now, if you haven't been following TVs, then this may be a surprise to you. You're like, what does that even mean? I can find tons of TVs for less than $1,000. But if I told you how much OLEDs used to cost, this is a ridiculous deal. In fact, it might sound too good to be true. But guess what? It's not. Now, OLED, or organic light emitting diode, has been the pinnacle of TV tech for a while now. There have been a few newcomers like Mini LED that have been trying to topple OLED from its perch with their release just this year. But they come close, but they don't really push OLED off the perch. Now let's talk about the LG C1 48-inch 4K TV. Now even though it's not a massive 65-inch behemoth, in our testing, this TV was the team's favorite for everything from gaming to watching movies and even TV. Now if you don't know what we're talking about, then you should check out our TV buyer's guide, which we just released to tell you all about the differences between LED, OLED, and Mini LED in case you don't know. And you can check that out right here. Now here's the deal, there's not really anything to hate about this television. I mean, let's just take a look at the specs. It's capable of 4K 120Hz with HDMI 2.1, so it supports the resolution and refresh rate for things like the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. It supports Dolby Vision for both movies and games, and it has a bunch of different color modes, including a game optimizer mode and the AI sound, which is crazy good. More on that in just a second. Actually, heck, we're just gonna start with that. Let's start with sound. Now when you first turn on a TV and start playing anything, the speakers usually sound weak. I would dare say even trash in most cases. And now while this is the case initially with this LG C1, you have the option to turn on what's called AI sound optimization when you first set up the television. And you should, because holy cow, does it make a huge difference. I was actually shocked. I wish we would have recorded it, because when it turned out I was like, whoa, when I really heard the difference in sound quality, specifically with the amount of bass and clarity in the audio without the need of anything like a soundbar. Now that's not to say that getting a soundbar won't enhance the overall experience, especially if you get something with Dolby Atmos, but I'm just saying that you may be able to pass on something like that for a short time when first getting this TV. Now sound is one thing, but the picture quality is everything, and does this TV deliver on visuals? Now when we were testing our TVs for our buyer's guide, which I mentioned earlier, we wanted to be realistic about the experience on what this would be like to live with in everyday use, and what most consumers basically do 99% of the time, which we confirmed with reps from Samsung and LG. So no, we didn't take a microscope to it and look at an individual OLED to examine the exact brightness level of every part of the screen. We wanted to see it in action. We wanted to test it the way that you would use it. And all in all, we wanted to set it up the way that 99% of customers are actually going to set it up. So we watched things, we played games, we did everything that you normally do, and we didn't use any silly equipment to try and make this look just like a perfect thing, which most of you won't do. So we watched Marvel's Shang-Chi on Disney Plus because it's IMAX enhanced, it's got Dolby Vision and 4K HDR, and when I tell you this movie looked staggeringly good, I mean it. A few scenes to call out of note were the fight scenes between Shang-Chi's parents in the woods. The color and sharpness and vibrancy of everything in the scene was just jaw-dropping. The details in strands of hair, the dynamic range in the shadows and highlights, the depth of field in the video made everything in focus sharp and pop off the screen. The dark scenes inside the bar and caves at first felt really dark, but not like the black levels were crushed and I was missing details in the shadow. It was more like subtle changes in brightness, you know, like real shadows in real life. You could still see highlights in the hair and no details were missing in any shot. See, how that works with OLEDs is if something is black, it can actually turn the OLEDs off completely. Now, normal LEDs or QLEDs or even mini LEDs or QNEDs can't really shut their LEDs off entirely, but rather just turn the brightness down. This is what happens when you see the backlight bleeding around the edges of LED TVs, but that's not the case for the C1. Now, VFX look amazing, color variation and explosions and glowing effects shift as the camera changes perspective. So for movies and video content, this is a top-tier TV. Now, we're going to be showing you some of the shots of the TV as we talk about the features. In fact, you've seen some of these already. But as a heads up, this B-roll is not going to do it justice. I mean, it looks good, but the unfortunate thing is you won't really get a good idea of just how good these TV looks unless you see them in person. Well, what does that mean, Robey? Meaning you should, or maybe you shouldn't, go to your local Best Buy and watch one of these TVs. Because once you see the difference, consider yourself spoiled because anything less than maybe a mini LED TV isn't going to do it justice. So if you don't want to be spoiled, don't go. But you really should because these things look so dang good. And with the price, I mean, it's just so worth it. So what about gaming, Robey? Well, we tested the brand new Forza 5 and Halo Infinite multiplayer. Both support 4K, and Halo Infinite supports 120 Hz. They have HDR10 and Dolby Vision for gaming, so we thought we'd give them a go. Forza Horizon 5 is breathtakingly gorgeous. All of the cinematics look insane, as does just driving around. The OLED's dynamic range is apparent when you see the sun glinting off the paint, and the glass in your car along with the shadows your car casts. I will tell you, playing on an OLED makes you want to use photo mode a whole lot more because of just how gorgeous this television makes this game look. The colors of the environment pop, and night racing and festival hubs at night look so cool. All of those neon lights. There just isn't a better way to experience a driving game than an OLED right now, whether that's LG or Sony. Now for Halo Infinite, while it's a great looking game, its focus isn't on delivering ray-traced extreme visuals, but a solid and smooth gaming experience for a shooter. And let me tell you, playing Halo Infinite on this 120 Hz television in 4K with Dolby Vision makes me not want to go back to anything else. Everything felt smooth, motion was crispy, and you could see everything. I mean, as a PC-centered channel, we've been touting high refresh rate gaming for years, and in the console space, that hasn't been an option. Until now. Okay, Robey, well what about burn-in? I mean, this was something that Linus was just talking about. Well, LG and Sony have a feature called Picture Move, or pixel shifting, that moves the pixels in the image around ever so slightly so they aren't displaying the exact image for long durations. This is something that has plagued OLEDs. When you watch things like sports where the graphics for the score or clock would be up almost the whole time, or while you're playing a game where a map or a UI element would be on screen for hours on end. That's not really going to be a problem moving forward, and even for the new LG TVs like the C1, they have a 5-year warranty that covers burn-in. That's confidence right there. So this is all great, Robey, but there's a newer model, the G1. Why wouldn't I go get that? Well, first off, there isn't a 48-inch version of that, so it's 55 inches or bigger. And even on sale, the 55-inch G1 is still $600 more expensive than the 48-inch C1, and that's only with a few small updates to the speakers and a slightly different input configuration. As well, and this is worth noting, a new panel that increases the overall nits and brightness, which is a weakness for OLEDs, in the display. But the problem is that for the most part, even with the nits upgrade, this is essentially the same TV for anyone who watches TV on it. So folks, it's cheap. In the relative sense of getting an LG Signature 8K 65-inch is $20,000, but is it worth it? Yes. In this case, I can definitely say that the LG C1 is cheap and worth it, but it may not be cheap for long as these deals aren't going to last forever. So what's next on the series then, Robey? I mean, this wasn't exactly the cheapest thing. I'd love to see some actual cheap. Well, then stay tuned next Saturday for a new episode about building PCs using integrated graphics. You can actually build a cheap PC with an integrated GPU. They're available, they're easy to get, you can order them right now. But is it worth it? Well, tune in next week to find out. So that's it for this video. What did you think? Do you like this new series? And trust me, we're gonna be talking about actual cheap things too. Do you have an LG C1 and love it? Do you think newer is always better? Do you want to go check out a C1 at a local Best Buy or video store? Let us know down in the comments if you went and if you saw it and if you thought the same thing we did. Now while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we post a new video or go live right here on Robeytech. Also, check out our amazing community over at Discord where you can talk about TVs, PC building, PC tech, you name it, we more than likely have a channel for it, and we'd love to have you over at discord.gg/Robeytech. It's holiday shopping time, and if you're looking for great deals, make sure you check out robeytechdeals.com or at robeytechdeals on Twitter. We cover things like monitors, televisions, tech, you name it. Before you buy it, check us out there first. Tom may have found a deal that could probably save you money. Oh, and it helps us out at the same time for no extra cost. And finally, follow us on all the socials. TikTok if you want to see dancing, Instagram if you want to see cool PC pictures, Twitter if you just want to hear my brain thoughts. We'd love to have you on any one of those. Follow along. Outside of that, we hope you enjoyed this episode and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.